Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Library Love for Library Reads. I'm Susan Maguire, Senior Editor, Collection Management and Library Outreach at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message in the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captionings on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Rebecca Vnuk, Executive Director of LibraryReads, Melissa Croce, Senior Marketing Manager at Simon Schuster, Jennifer Rubens, Associate Director of Library Marketing at Penguin Random House, and Lainey Mays, Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins Publishers. First, we'll hear from Rebecca Vnuk. Rebecca is the Executive Director of LibraryReads, a nonprofit organization that works with public library staff and U.S. publishers to promote adult reading. She has an MLIS from Dominican University and worked as a reader's advisory librarian for a decade. And prior to joining LibraryReads, she was the editor for collection management and library outreach at Booklist magazine. Rebecca is the author of 3 reference books on the topic of women's fiction, as well as a best-selling book on weeding library collections. Thank you for joining us, Rebecca.
Thanks so much for having me, Susan. I love this webinar. We do it, is it twice a year now? And it's just so much fun because I get to tell new folks about LibraryReads and we get to hear about all kinds of great new books to put on the list. So hooray, and it's World Book Day. I just realized that today too. So what a perfect day for a webinar like this. So I am just here to spend a very short amount of time telling folks about LibraryReads and some quick details on how you can get involved if you are not already part of the LibraryReads family. So as Susan mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to connect adults with books that library staff across the country are reading and recommending. We also do free training and author events for library staff centered on reader's advisory for adult patrons. Next slide. LibraryReads advocates for adult books of all types, fiction and nonfiction, so please vote for your favorites every month. Anyone who works in a public library in the US is eligible to vote. It doesn't matter what your job is or your title. As long as you read adult books and love to share your recommendations, you are in. You're one of us, basically, whether you like it or not. The only requirement that we have is that you need to be signed up for NetGalley or Edelweiss or both. And you have to have signed up as working in a public library. That automatically puts you kind of into the LibraryReads community, and that is what gives you access to the vote buttons. Next slide. So why should you become involved with us? For readers' advisory purposes. I always tell people it's 10 more books, actually plus a month, that you can pretend that you've read. All of our books are accompanied by a wonderful annotation that is written by one of our users. And it's a lovely, usually, 3-4 sentences that you get exactly what you need from it. You can use that to recommend it to folks. Right now, we do a top 10, and we also do 2 bonus picks, 1 fiction and 1 nonfiction a month. And then we also have our Hall of Fame. So lately, the Hall of Fame has been growing and growing. So we actually are offering 20 plus books every month that you can just have in the back of your head, know that they are personally recommended by library folks, ready to go. We have lots of our blurbs point out when something is good for a book group choice. So that is a great reader's advisory possibility for Library Reads. If you visit our archive, which is on our website, and I'll have links to that in further slides, but it's libraryreads.org. Our archive has a column for book club recommendations. So you could sort it by that and just come up with literally hundreds of book club possibilities. We also allow everyone to use our content for your library's website or your social media. We encourage all of the sharing and reposting and all of that. So that's some readers advisory reasons to become involved with us. For collection development reasons. So we have lots of folks that tell us they check the list every month against their ordering carts to make sure that they're ordering the stuff that everyone across the country is talking about. Baker and Taylor happens to offer a pre-filled list every month of the Library Reads titles. We're working on getting Ingram to do the same. I would love to see that as well. And Midwest Tape also publishes the list in their catalog. We also have great partnerships with Booklist, of course, with our friends at Novelist, all kinds of other partnerships. You will see us promoting those books that are getting attention. And people hear me say this all the time. We can go to the next slide, actually. I really believe that our list is great for filling your brain full of books. So, right, we all know this. Our patrons think that you have read every book on the shelves, right? You're in collection development, you're in reader's advisory, you're working that circulation desk. So you must have seen every single book that comes into the library, and surely you've read it. So this way, we kind of can keep the mystery alive. This is I've been saying this for years. Fill your brain full of books, even if you haven't read them. By using our monthly list, you can increase your familiarity with publishers because it quickly becomes apparent who publishes which kinds of titles, what imprint goes with what sort of genre. You can increase your awareness of new books. Again, it's those 10 extra books a month that you can talk about. And it becomes very obvious what kind of books are trending throughout the year. This year, I feel like I've said over and over again, witchy romance. It is the year of witchy romance. I feel like almost every list this year, the last 12 months, has had at least one witchy romance. So that is a huge trend right now, and we're seeing it. The other thing that we like about our list is we think that it can help you enhance your reader's advisory skills by helping you practice looking for appeal factors and read-alikes. Our friends at Novelist are very generous with their time, and every month when we have the list come out, they set up a committee that goes through and picks out a read-alike for every single book on the list. So because our books our list, are featuring pre-pub books, people are going to come in and you might not have them on the shelf. We have given you a read-alike for every single one. So hopefully that is helpful for reader's advisory. Next slide. So our list comes out monthly on the 15th. We publish it on our website along with a link to the PDF flyer that you can use in your library for display or handout purposes. It does print out in a nice 8.5 by 11 size, perfect for those Demco holders that you've got at the desk. Basically, that is what it looks like. You do the voting, we do the counting, and the top vote getter becomes the #1 pick. We have a top 10 list every month. It's always a variety of genres. If you're a regular user, you kind of know how the system works. But if you do not, let me just tell you, it really is a popular vote. The board does not put our thumb on the scale for things. We don't get to choose things other than the specific board bonus picks. It truly is. We get approximately 2,000 to 2,500 votes come in every month. And it is from folks all across the US working at libraries. And we distill those down and that becomes our top 10, which is really kind of cool. It's a very, it's a nice user-friendly process. It's not a bestseller list. It's not an award type list. There's no judges, no jury. It is just what are people reading and what are people recommending. Now, we know that you might be using Edelweiss and NetGalley to just keep track of what you're reading and writing annotations maybe for yourself. But if you can take a look there, many users take the opportunity to write annotations selected for inclusion. And we love it when you do, because that's what makes our list so special. This is a personalized recommendation We get those, we edit them. And let's move to the next slide. We can take a look at one actually. So here's what one of our annotations looks like. You see how easy it is to get to know everything about this book without having read it first. You see the basic plot points, you see the appeal of the book, and then there's the read alike suggestion. So what we like to also remind people is if you are contributing an annotation, do not worry about, is it the right length? Is it saying what it needs to say? We have a team of volunteers from our board that edit everything that goes onto our list before it gets published. So if you are kind enough when you're voting to add some commentary, we get all that commentary. We will pick stuff out that sounds good. I try to pick a variety of folks. We have, you'll see on every list, there are our rock star voters that contribute constantly. But we do have then our team of folks on the board that edit these down to fit on our flyer and look nice and professional like that. So that's one of our annotations. So next slide. You'll be hearing today, of course, from our fantastic publisher friends about their upcoming books and how to get them. So here are just some of our other tips on how to know what's eligible and what to vote for. So if you're visiting booths in person at ALA, PLA, ARSL, your state shows, etc., grab those galleys and absolutely use those to vote. We just remind everyone that the voting does happen online, so you've got to be able to find that book then as well in either NetGalley or Edelweiss. And if you are on those systems, make sure that the publishers know that your profile shows that you work in a public library. You can also, each of them have, little areas where you can write additional biographical content. Make sure that you say you're using your account to contribute to LibraryReads. That will also kind of help sometimes if you have any issues getting whitelisted or getting a book downloaded. Let's see here. You'll also see from today, you'll meet folks, if you haven't met them already, that many publishers have staff that are devoted to library outreach, which is so awesome. These are great people to contact when there's a specific books that you want. They have newsletters, they link to their digital arcs, they host all kinds of their own webinars and all of these, and they're very good about telling you when the LibraryReads deadline is. I also want to remind people really quickly about Early Word. So Early Word hosts the galley chats every month on Twitter/X, whatever we are calling it now. And that is a great place to learn about upcoming titles. Those take place the first Thursday of every month from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern time. Next slide. We have a directory online of our publisher partners, including their websites, key contact folks, and newsletter links. So you can check that out at libraryreads.org/resources, and that will lead you to all of these fine folks, how to get books from them. Next slide. You can find short videos on our YouTube channel that walk you through using NetGalley and Edelweiss, as well as a video tutorial on writing annotations. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/libraryreads, and it is linked on our website. Also, if you go to our site and select the Participate tab, that will take you to several more options on how to learn more about our process. We have full FAQ, all kinds of information on how to get involved. We can just go through the next 2 slides really quickly. You'll see Edelweiss and NetGalley both do a wonderful job of showing you how to find titles you're looking for, proper ways to request them, and then our website has screenshots on how to find the vote tabs. And that is really it. We have top 3 questions from new users. I always like to make sure people understand this if you're not already familiar with us. You do not have to sign up or register with LibraryReads to participate. What you do have to register for is either Edelweiss or NetGalley. That's what gets you into the community. That's what gets you the tab on each book, the vote button, etc. Does LibraryReads send out books? No, we don't. You get those by attending these kinds of webinars, by signing up for newsletters, etc., and accessing via search for Edelweiss and NetGalley. And the other big question is, will it ever cost me or my library anything to participate? Absolutely never. All of the materials on our website are free to any user. There's never a charge associated with using Edelweiss or NetGalley. We are a not-for-profit organization and are supported by the generous partnerships we have with our publisher friends. So we thank them very much for that. That is our existence. And that's really it for my time. You can email me at any time with questions and check out our website for more information. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. We'll now hear from Melissa Croce. Melissa is the Senior Marketing Manager for Adult Library Titles at Simon & Schuster. She's been with the company since 2020, and when she's not reading everything from romance novels to poetry to narrative nonfiction, she likes to root for her many favorite hockey teams, play D&D, and watch K-dramas. Thank you for being here today, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone. All right, next. The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. In 1950s Tehran, 7-year-old Ellie lives in grand comfort until the untimely death of her father, forcing she and her mother to move to a tiny home downtown. Lonely, Ellie's life is changed when she meets Homa, a kind, passionate girl with a brave spirit. Together, the two girls play and share their ambitions for becoming lion women. But their happiness is disrupted when Ellie and her mother eventually return to their previous bougie life, and Ellie's memories of Homa begin to fade. Years later, however, her sudden reappearance in Ellie's privileged world alters the course of both of their lives. Together, they come of age and pursue their own goals for meaningful futures. But as the political turmoil in Iran builds to a breaking point, one earth-shattering betrayal will have enormous consequences. Next. Sounds Like a Plan by Pamela Samuels Young and Dwayne Alexander Smith. Jackson Jones and Mackenzie Cunningham have a lot in common. They're both hardworking private investigators with their own firms in LA, each happily single and very good at their jobs. But when they're together, they're like oil and water. They are pissed when they find themselves working the same missing persons case. But once it's clear they've been set up to take the fall for a murder, they have no choice but to join forces and make a plan that will expose the truth. Bickering their way from Century City to Malibu and beyond, they find it increasingly hard to deny the sparks flying between them. But with a small army of mercenaries in hot pursuit and a killer intent on covering his tracks, there's not a lot of time to sort through their complicated feelings. Told in alternating perspectives for fans of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this rollicking romantic thrill ride makes for a swoon-worthy mystery. Next. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones, 1989, La Mesa, Texas. A small West Texas town driven by oil and cotton, and a place where everyone knows everyone else's business. So it goes for Tolly Driver, a good kid with potential, more potential than application, 17 years old and about to be cursed to kill for revenge. Here, Jones explores the Texas he grew up in, the unfairness of being on the outside, through the slasher horror he lives, but from the perspective of the killer, Tolly, writing his own autobiography. Find yourself rooting for a killer in this summer teen movie of a novel gone full blood-curdling tragic. And if you want to hear more from Stephen, he's actually going to be our special guest for the Simon & Schuster Summer 2024 preview, which is tomorrow. Next. All right, The Genius of Judy, How Judy Blume Rewrote Childhood for All of Us by Rochelle Bergstein. Everybody knows Judy Blume. Her books have garnered her fans of all ages for decades and sold tens of millions of copies. The books she wrote serve regular children with genuine thoughts and problems. But behind those deceptively simple tales, Blume explored the pillars of the growing women's rights movement, in which girls and women were entitled to careers, bodily autonomy, fulfilling relationships, and even sexual pleasure. Blume wasn't trying to be a revolutionary. She just wanted to tell honest stories. But in doing so, she created a cohesive, culture-altering version of modern adolescence. Her bravery provoked backlash, making her the country's most banned author in the mid-1980s, and it's no coincidence that Blume has resurfaced as a cultural touchstone now, amidst continued sexism and book bans. As we face these challenges, it's only natural that we look to Blume. This is the story of how a housewife became a groundbreaking artist and how generations of empowered fans are her legacy today more than ever. Next. People Will Talk by Kieran Scott. I'm calling this perfect for fans of people who love sort of soapy shows from the OOs like Desperate Housewives and Revenge. When the Frank family throws their annual clam bake at their gorgeous beachside home on Cape May, attendees can count on two things: excellent seafood, and Peter Frank, the beloved son and perennial heartbreaker, making the rounds, charming every woman on the guest list. Top of this list that year are 3 women: Maya, his tennis star girlfriend, just coming off of the high of winning Wimbledon; Catherine, his high school sweetheart turned wildly successful wedding planner and influencer; and Leanne, the fiercely protective aunt and legal guardian of his only son. When the 3 women arrive at expecting an extravagant feast, they're instead lured into a room together by a mysterious text to find Peter with this mysterious woman, Tilly. Tilly, all blonde hair and perfectly tan skin, explains to the 3 women that she and Peter are getting married that night and that 3 things are about to happen. Maya and Peter are over. Peter is no longer investing in Catherine's company, and Leanne must give up guardianship of her nephew. The enraged women attend the wedding, but when a chandelier falls and crushes the bride, suddenly they are 3 likely suspects with 3 perfect motives. Now they must work together to figure out who really did kill Tilly, and fast, because maintaining a good reputation in this crowd can be murder. Next. The Fiancé Dilemma by Elena Armas. The author of The Spanish Love Deception is back. Josie Moore has given the opposite sex and love plenty of chances. 4 exactly if you count all of her failed engagements, and 5 if you count her absentee father. Nonetheless, when the influential man decides to announce his retirement with a splashy magazine piece, and Josie learns that her romantic history isn't great PR for the family, she jumps at the chance to offer a solution. Enter Matthew Flanagan, newly fired from his job and who needs a place to crash until he gets his life back on track. But instead, he stumbles upon his best friend's sister, Josie, greeting him as her fiancé. What starts as a big misunderstanding quickly turns into a fake engagement, with Matthew playing the role of the doting fiancé. They're swept into a PR whirlwind. However, they have rules in place, and one of them is that no matter what, they will not actually be walking down the aisle. But that's easier said than done. Lines will start to blur, and the rest of the small town comes to believe that the 5th fiancé is truly the one. Next. All right, Hum by Helen Phillips. In a city addled by climate change and populated by intelligent robots called Hums, May loses her job to AI. In a desperate bid to resolve her family's debt and secure their future for a few more months, she becomes a guinea pig in a dangerous experiment that alters her face so drastically it cannot be recognized by surveillance. Seeking some reprieve from the recent hardships and her family's addiction to the devices, she takes the money from the surgery and splurges on passes that allows them 3 nights respite inside the botanical garden, a rare green refuge where forests, streams, and animals flourish. But her insistence that her son, daughter, and husband leave their devices at home proves far more fraught than she anticipated, and the lush beauty of the botanical gardens is not the balm she hoped it would be. Instead, it is far more sinister. Next. Till Death Do Us Part by Lori Elizabeth Flynn. 10 years ago, June's beloved husband drowned on their honeymoon, his body never found. Now, a decade later, June is finally ready to move on, but out of the blue, she sees him, Josh, her first husband. Is this just a hallucination from the guilt June carries about moving on, or is it possible that he never died in the first place? June tries to forget about the vision, but soon enough, she stumbles across a website for a winery in Napa, and the owner of the photo is identical to Josh. With her upcoming wedding looming and a fiancé who's already worried she hasn't left her past behind, June secretly flies to Napa for answers. But she's not prepared for all the secrets she's about to unlock, because everything she thought she knew about her first love is a lie. Next. I Need You to Read This by Jessa Maxwell. Years ago, Alex Marks escaped to New York City for a fresh start, where she keeps to herself in the big city. Her carefully cultivated world is upended when her childhood hero, Frances Keene, is brutally murdered. Frances was the woman behind the famous advice column, Dear Constance, and her words helped Alex through some of her darkest times. When Alex sees an advertisement searching for her replacement, she decides to apply and gets the job against all odds. Soon, even though she's very skilled at the job, she begins to receive strange, potentially threatening letters. Frances's murder was never identified after all, turning everyone around Alex into a threat, including her boss, Editor-in-Chief Howard, who was both a workaholic and alcoholic. As Alex is drawn into the details surrounding her predecessor's murder, her own dark secrets begin to rise to the surface, and Alex finds herself trapped in a dangerous game of cat and mouse that takes her all the way from Manhattan to Frances Keene's summer house, where her body was originally found and where the killer might just be waiting for Alex. Next. The Palace of Eros by Caro de Robertis. Perfect for fans of Circe and Black Sun, this bold and subversive feminist retelling of the Greek myth of Psyche and Eros explores the power of queer joy and freedom, featuring a non-binary Eros. This tale is lush, romantic, beautiful, and I can't recommend it enough. Next. Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book in the Maple Hills series, where the original one was Icebreaker. When his procrastination lands him in a difficult class with his least favorite professor, Henry Turner knows he's going to have to work extra hard to survive his junior year of college. And now, with his new title of captain for the hockey team, one he didn't even want, Henry cannot fail. Enter Hallie Jacobs, a fellow junior who finds herself befriended by Henry when he accidentally crashes her book club. Aspiring writer Hallie may not have the romantic pursuits of her favorite fictional leads, but she's an academic superstar. And once she learns about Henry's problems, she generously offers to help despite her busy schedule. But new experiences might be the key to beating her writer's block, and Henry's promising to be the one to give them to her. They just need to stick to their rule book and to not fall in love. Next. Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. Sadie Smith is how the narrator, a ruthless, bold American secret agent, introduces herself to her lover, to the rural commune of French subversives on whom she is keeping tabs, and to the reader. Sadie has met her love, Lucien, a young and well-born Parisian, by cold bump, making him believe that their encounter was accidental. Like everyone Sadie targets, Lucien is useful to her and used by her. She operates by strategy and dissimulation based on what her contacts, shadowy figures in the business and government, instruct. First, these contacts want her to incite provocation. Then they want more. In this region of centuries-old farms and ancient caves, Sadie becomes entranced by a mysterious figure named Bruno, a mentor to the young activist who communicates only by email. Bruno believes that the path to emancipation from what ails modern life is not revolt, but a return to the ancient past. Just as Sadie is certain she is the seductress and puppet master of those she surveils, Bruno is the one seducing her with ingenious counterhistories, artful laments, and his own tragic story. Who will emerge the winner between them? Next. In book 2 of the Flesh and God series, the sequel to Immortal Longings finds Calla, who has succeeded in the impossible. Despite all odds, she has won the bloody games and eliminated the tyrant king, her former uncle and former ruler of Talon. She now serves as royal advisor to the king's adopted son, August, who has risen to the throne. Only Calla knows that it isn't really August, it's Anton, who is still furious about Calla's betrayal in the final round of the games. In an impossible feat, he took over August's body to survive, but has no intentions of giving up his newfound power. But when his first love, the beautiful, explosive Otto, awakes from a long year's coma and reveals a secret that threatens the monarchy's authority over Talon, chaos erupts. As tensions come to a boiling point, Calla and Anton must set their conflicts aside and head to the kingdom's far reaches to prevent anarchy, even if their empire might be better off burning. Next. The Examiner by Janice Hallett. Jella Nathaniel, head of Royal Hastings University's new multimedia art course, must find 6 students from all walks of life across the UK for her new master's program before the university cuts her funding. The students are nothing but trouble from day one. Jem is a talented, ambitious sculptor. Jonathan has not a lot of art experience besides running his family's gallery. Patrick runs an art supply store, but can barely operate his phone, much less design software. Ludia is a single mother and graphic designer more interested in making money than doing homework. Cameron is a marketing executive in search of a career change. And Allison is already a successful artist who seems to be overqualified. Finally, there's the Examiner, the man hired to grade the students' final artworks, an art installation for a local cloud-based solutions company that might have an ulterior agenda, and who, in sifting through the final essays, texts, and message boards, warns that someone is in danger or already dead. And nothing about this course has been left up to chance. And my final title next is The Lightning Bottles by Marissa Stapley. Jane Pyre was once half of the famous rock and roll duo, The Lightning Bottles. Years later, she's perhaps the most hated and least understood woman in music. She was never as popular with fans as her bandmate and soulmate Elijah Hart, even if Jane was the one who wrote the songs that catapulted the Lightning Bolts to instant fame. But ever since Elijah disappeared 5 years earlier and the band's meteoric rise to fame came crashing down, the public hatred of Jane has taken on new levels, and all she wants to do is be left alone. What she doesn't anticipate is the bombshell that awaits her at her new home in the German countryside, the sullen teenage girl next door and Lightning Bottle superfan who claims to have proof that not only is Elijah still alive, he's been leaving secret messages for Jane, and they need to find them right away. Next. All right, here are our resources. Be sure to check out simonschuster.net/library You can find all of these resources and more from everything from collection curation to book club to community reads. Next. Here's my contact information. Thank you so much again for being here, everybody.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Next, we'll hear from Jen Rubens. Jen is the Associate Director of Library Marketing and has devoted herself to supporting the art of storytelling in some shape or form for as long as she can remember, whether as a longtime library and audiobook marketer or on stage and behind a mic. One of the first stages she performed on was at her local library as a kid. She won an AudioFile Earphones Award for her audiobook narration of And Then We Grew Up by Rachel Friedman and is the voice of many book ads. Jen has worked at PRH for over 13 years, where it's always a thrill to combine her passion for books and storytelling with her love for libraries. The floor is yours, Jen.
Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here. My list is already so long from all the presentations so far. So next slide, I'm going to dive right in. We have a book club brochure, and if you're anything like me, you need some guidance when you're meeting with your friends to talk about books, and this is the perfect thing to keep us in line. It has amazing questions. It has great suggestions when we don't know what to read next, because there are just so many amazing books to read. So I love having this as a handy guide, and I think you will too. It's available on our website, and you can also let your patrons know about it. And next slide. And speaking of too many books to read, we have a debut sampler, which is the perfect way to dip in and explore some of the amazing books that are coming out all at once. You can just read a little bit of each one, see how you feel about it. And then there's another great idea right behind it. So we hope you'll check out our debut fiction sampler. This is our latest one, and you can find it on our website. Next slide. And then we also have our summer catalogs available. So we hope you'll also check those out on our website. We've divided them into hopefully very easy to navigate categories. So whether you're looking for book club picks, debuts, must-have fiction, audiobooks, large print, we've got a ton of different categories that we hope will help you make your way through every season. Next slide. And so just to let you know, we have some other upcoming virtual events. This Thursday, mark your calendars, we have a Spring Book and Author Festival that will be full of amazing panels, lots of conversation. You can chat with us in our virtual booth, and you can dive into lots of amazing chats with wonderful authors. And then, of course, we'll be back at Day of Dialogue on May 9th for a lot more fun panels and author events. Next slide. Okay, now to the books, what we've all been waiting for. So I'm so thrilled to introduce you to Bear by Julia Phillips. This is a spectacular follow-up to her amazing debut that was a finalist for the National Book Award. It was a New York Times Book Review Top 10 Best of the Year. And she's here with this modern-day fable. Sam and her sister Elena dream of another life. On the island off the coast of Washington, where they were born and raised, they and their mother struggle to survive. Sam works long days on the ferry while Elena bartends, but even together, they can't earn enough to get by. And then one night on the boat, Sam spots a bear swimming in the dark waters of the channel. Where's it going? What does it want? When the bear turns up by their home, Sam is terrified and more convinced than ever that it's time to leave the island. But Elena, her sister, responds differently to this beast and is enchanted by its presence, and it throws into doubt their whole plan to escape, and it puts their long-held dream in danger. But why? So this is an amazing story that's going to provoke so much conversation about the bonds of sisterhood, the mysteries of animals that live among us and within us. And so it's just this really mythical, imaginative novel that I think so many people will be talking about. It's a really kind of strange love story that brings wildlife into sisterhood, into class and capitalism. It's a captivating portrait of the Pacific Northwest, and it really feeds the popularity of retellings that I feel like are having a moment. It's loosely inspired by Grimm's Snow White and Rose Red, and it's, as I mentioned, just like a modern day fable that I think will just be a beautiful addition to your summer reads. And if you're a fan of audio, Sophie Amos will read the audiobook. Next slide. So Chris Whitaker, if you followed us during Library Week, he was one of the people who gave in a video because he loves libraries, and he actually used to work at a library and actually worked on his own writing at a library. And he is just getting so much acclaim for this amazing thriller that also combines an epic love story. And I think it's perfect for fans of Mare of Easttown and The Shawshank Redemption. So, you know, no big deal to be compared to things like that. And this is about a story that takes place in 1975, which of course was a time of change in America, and the Vietnam War is ending, and Muhammad Ali is fighting Joe Frazier. And in this small town in Missouri that he writes about, girls are disappearing. When the daughter of a family, a wealthy family, is targeted, the most unlikely hero emerges, Patch, a local boy who saves the girl, and in doing so leaves heartache in his wake. But Patch and those who love him soon discover that the line between triumph and tragedy has never been finer, and they search for answers that will lead them to truths that could mean losing one another. So this is a missing person mystery, it's a serial killer thriller, but it's also a love story, and it's a unique twist on all of those things. It's a really wonderful novel about obsession and hope, and he's already an acclaimed author. If you haven't read him yet, We Begin at the End was a great bestseller, and you can also expect to perhaps see his work in TV adaptations. So we think All the Colors of the Dark is going to be a huge bestseller, and we hope that you're one of the first ones to read it. And it will be read by Eduardo Ballerini on audio. Next slide. So The Love of My Afterlife. So this is a completely refreshing take on life's second chances, and it's smart and it's sexy, and it has an emotional twist at the end. So I think you're fans of Emily Henry, of Ashley Poston, people who love witty and warm-hearted shows like The Good Place and even Fleabag are going to find so much to love in The Love of My Afterlife. So a recently deceased woman meets the one in the afterlife waiting room, scoring a second chance at life and love if she can find him on Earth before her 10 days are up. So what happens is that recently deceased Delphi Bookham, how do you like that last name, readers? Bookham, has just met the one, but she's devastated when a mix-up means that he's immediately sent back to Earth. And so she is given a second chance, and she accepts a deal in which she can also return to her previous life in London and reconnect with this mysterious stranger that she's sure is her soulmate. But the challenge, as I mentioned, she only has 10 days to find him, 10 days to make him fall for her, and he has no recollection of them ever having met. So this is just a wonderful book club read that I think people who love epic Sweeney romances are going to have so much to discuss about it. It's getting praise already from writers like Carly Fortune, who says that this is an utterly charming rom-com that's as hilarious as it is poignant. Reading this book is like receiving a big hug from a dear friend. And what could we want more than that? Next slide. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So this, I think, is going to be a big literary fiction event. Think Celeste Ng or Rebecca Mackay. This is got a mystery-driven plot, and it really describes this incredible story of characters who are partly defined by their inheritance, but unlike Liz's previous book, it's not a crime novel or procedural, and it really just has a rich background detail about these incredible characters, and it has the secondary mystery as well. So fans of big literary event fiction, like I said, like Ann Patchett, Donna Tartt, are going to love this. When a teenager vanishes from her Adirondack summer camp, two worlds collide. Early morning, August 1975, a camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing, but she's not just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp, and her own brother vanished similarly 14 years ago and was never found. So it's a literary crossover story set in a popular vacation spot. It's got these family secrets. It's got this mystery, and it already has a star from Kirkus that says, as rich in background detail and secondary mysteries as it is, this ever-expansive, intricate, emotionally engaging novel never seems overplotted. Every piece falls skillfully into place, and every character, major and minor, leaves an imprint. Don't Go Into the Woods takes on unsettling new meaning. And I, for one, can't wait to go into the woods. Next slide. This Great Hemisphere by Matteo Ascaripour. He also gave a great quote about libraries to us for National Library Week. He was thrilled to do so, and I hope that you'll be thrilled to read his next book. Of course, he's already been named one of the National Book Foundation's 5 under 35 honorees. His previous book, Black Buck, was a New York Times bestseller. It was a Today Show book club pick, and he's back with this very cool character, she's an invisible woman. I don't know if I've ever read a novel that centers on a young invisible woman. So this is for fans of speculative fiction, dystopian fiction, and political thrillers. It combines all of these things. And it's about a woman who's invisible by birth and relegated to second-class citizenship, who sets off on a mission to find her older brother, who she had presumed dead, but who's now the primary suspect in a high-profile political murder. So it has the blazing defiance of the power. It has a little bit of House of Cards, and it shows us how reality is often shaped by non-truths and vicious manipulations. And in the Northwestern Hemisphere, a world dangerously like our own, no one and nothing is ever as it seems. Next slide. So like Mother Like Daughter by Kimberly McCreight. So she is no stranger to the Library Reads list. She's been on it twice before. And this is about a daughter who races to uncover her mother's secret life in the wake of her disappearance. So Cleo is a student at NYU. She arrives for dinner at her home in Brooklyn. She finds food burning in the oven and no sign of her mother. And then she discovers her mom's bloody shoe under the sofa and knows that something terrible has happened. And she always thought that her mom was like the essence of a Park Slope perfect mom, happily married, successful corporate lawyer. And it turns out her mom has been lying. She's been a fixer for her firm. She's not just a lawyer. And there's been a lot of dangerous things leading up to her disappearance that no one knew about before. And so this has emotional, thrilling suspense, questions about what we cling to in life, what we avoid knowing about our family members. And of course, most of all, it's a love story between a mother and a daughter that she writes so well. And it just expertly balances the relationship drama with the intrigue and suspense. So it's just the perfect beach read. And also good news for fans of Kimberly, Reconstructing Amelia, A Good Marriage, and Friends Like These are all in active development to come to a screen near you. So we'll be hearing lots from this author, and we hope that you'll read Like Mother, Like Daughter. Next slide. Nivola by Paolo Bacogalupi. I did practice saying his name, I promise. So this is for readers of George R.R. Martin fans. He's the best-selling author already of The Wind-Up Girl and The Water Knife, and this is a sweeping literary fantasy about a young scion from a ruling class family who faces rebellion as he ascends to power. So he's just already beloved in the sci-fi and fantasy spaces. Both of his previous adult novels were New York Times bestsellers, and what a big deal to say that you're a worthy successor to the likes of George R.R. Martin. We think that this is fantasy that is going to speak to those fans. And it's just an amazing coming of age fantasy novel that is about Nivola, a bustling city-state that's dominated by a handful of influential families. And so the son, Daviko, is expected to take the reins of power from his father. But of course, there's also a fossilized dragon eye in the family's possession, which is a potent symbol of their raw power, and it's summoning Daviko to act. And I'll leave it there because I'm almost out of time, but I hope you'll read Nivola. Next slide. The Bright Sword is a novel of King Arthur by Lev Grossman. If you love King Arthur, you will love this. I've only got 2 minutes left, but these are not just the heroes of legend. These are the oddballs of the round table from the edges of the stories. This is the first major Arthurian epic of the new millennium. It's got tons of tradition, duels and quests, battles and tournaments. George R. R. Martin himself loves this book, and we hope that you do too. Next slide. The Lost Boy of Santa Chionia. This is for lovers of Italy, historical fiction, one identified skeleton, 3 missing men, a village full of secrets. The best-selling author of The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna brings you a sparkling, funny, and moving novel about a young American woman who turns amateur detective in a small village in southern Italy. So it's a town that has, no mail, no running water, no electricity, and a human skeleton has surfaced. And Francesca starts asking questions, and I think that she's just an amazing character. It's a captivating romance, a mystery, and a really affecting portrait of a young woman in search of a meaningful life. Next slide. Lady Macbeth. Today is the day we celebrate Shakespeare's birthday, so what better day to introduce you to Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. She's a best-selling author that has a reimagining of Lady Macbeth, of course, one of the most famous villainesses of Shakespeare, and she gives her a voice, a past, and a power that transforms the story that men have written for her. It's a feminist retelling that will resonate with all of your readers. It's just such a neat way to center this female character who's been painted as a villain for centuries, and it really goes with the dark gothic witchy vibes, that the witchcraft themes and the supernatural love story, and it's just an incredible read, and we hope that you love it as much as we do. Next slide. 2 more to go, I promise. The Volcano Daughters by Gina Maria Balabrera. This is for readers of C. Pam Zhang and for Julia Alvarez, and it's for lovers of rich historical fiction, but it also has a modern outlook. What's so incredible about this book, it's steeped in history, but it's got a decidedly modern voice because it's narrated by a group of ghosts who bring contemporary perspective to a story about 2 sisters who were separated during a horrible time in history. It's been inspired by real historical events and a real-life dictator. And it takes you from Hollywood to Paris to San Francisco as they're haunted by their life growing up on a volcano in a community of indigenous women. And it's just bursting with such amazing storytelling. And I hope you check it out. And then my final book, next slide, The Full Moon Coffee Shop. I'm out of time, but this is an uplifting book from the Japanese bestseller. It's charming and it's magical. It's inspired by the myth of cats who are returning favors to those who care for them, because cats are a symbol of good luck in Japan. And as the myth goes, if you are kind to them, they'll one day return the favor. And if you're kind to the right cat, you might just find yourself invited into a mysterious coffee shop under a glittering moon. So I hope you will love entering the Full Moon Coffee Shop. Cheers to that, and cheers to all of you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much, Jen. Finally, we'll hear from Lainey Mays. Lainey is the Library Marketing Associate at HarperCollins Publishers. Check out her new book recommendation website, Bookmarked by Lainey. You'll find reads color-coded by genre, handpicked for librarians and their patrons to savor. Take it away, Lainey.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. We love library reads. So this is a big library love fest, but double because we love library reads. And we have a lot of resources for eligible reads. So you can get to voting on the next slide. You can see everything on Library Love Fest. Pointing out writers to watch, that's our author event. We do that every month. So come join. You're invited to the party. It's at nighttime. So grab dinner, come join us. And also, I think our podcast is something I want to highlight because we do acceptance speeches from the winners of Library Reads. So every month you can hear directly from the author. So if you aren't already listening, please do. You can also sign up for a newsletter. We do roundups and staff picks every month. So it's just delivered right in your inbox. So that's all at librarylovefest.com. And on the next slide, I'm going to do my best to get through these, but I know we all have a short amount of time and like an embarrassment of riches. So you'll have the catalog. On the next slide, we're going to do a few roundups. I'm doing something a little different. I'm mixing it up. So don't miss these. These are all June pub dates except for Rainbow Rowell. That's July, but the rest of them are June. So like you only have a little bit of time. These waning dates are coming. We just want to remind you, don't miss these books. We've had most of them on Writers to Watch. You can go and get a good feel for the books if you want to dip in quickly, or if you haven't already. And on the next, we have past winners. So these are fan favorites. They've made library reads in the past. And in case you missed them or we wanted to remind you of the exciting reads. One in particular is Wanda Morris's book, What You Leave Behind. It's coming in June again. It's another thriller with timely themes, and she would make the Hall of Fame, just saying, if this one made it. So I just wanted to point those out. On the next, we are loving the nonfiction read picks from Library Reads. I love that new thing from the board. So we're going to highlight 2 right here, By the Fire We Carry by Rebecca Nagel. Powerful work of reportage that braids the story of forced removal of Native Americans onto treaty lands, combined with a small town murder in the 90s that led to a Supreme Court ruling about Native rights and lands. The read is there for both of these books, but that one is really fascinating and a good mixture of both. And then Book and Dagger is untold story of academics and librarians who became OSS spies in World War II and really helped turn the tide. Next is sci-fi and fantasy. Dragons, Dolls, Wolves. Oh my. So we have a new series from Sophie Jordan. It's a prequel to her YA Firelight trilogy. It's super fun. If you like Rebecca Yarros, like this is for you. And then Doll Makers, it's a debut standalone about the artisans tasked with creating demon-slaying dolls. A touch cozy fantasy, but then a little touch horror. It's a good mix. And then Curse of Blood and Wolves is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. Steamy, I should say. Next is romance. We have a lot of exciting new romances, but special attention to Shirlena Bobby's Between Friends and Lovers. This is her second book we have. She is amazing, but we just got a really great Emily Henry quote in that says, "An absolute joy to read. Perfect balance of humor and wisdom make this one a true standout." So I just wanted to pick that one, but we have a lot coming up. And then, okay, now we're going to get into the books. So the first one, next slide is, thank you. The Blue Hour by Paula Hawkins. So it's coming in October. We're super excited to have a new novel from #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Girl on the Train coming to HarperCollins. So this is an isolated Scottish island, accessible to the mainland only 12 hours a day. There's a famous, some might say infamous, artist whose notoriously unfaithful husband disappears after visiting her 20 years ago, and a present-day discovery that intimately connects three people and unveils a web of secrets and lies. It asks searing questions of ambition, power, gender, and perception. It recalls the best of Shirley Jackson and Patricia Highsmith, and it cements Hawkins' place among the very best of our most nuanced, powerful, and stylish storytellers. You'll read it in one sitting, and then you'll think about it for weeks. And so while Paula is perhaps best known for her unreliable narrative trope, this kind of category that feels very crowded, this book feels like it could straddle a lot of different genre lines. It's tremendously atmospheric. It's great characters. It's a fast read, but it's like elegant and surprising. It's, for fans of Kate Atkinson and Tana French. And we just got a really great Mick Herron quote. I'm so excited. It says, "It's very good, reminiscent of Du Maurier, sorry. Art, Islands, Missing Spouses, a compelling piece of work, hard to put down." So super excited about that one. The next one is Eddie Winston is Looking for Love by Marianne Cronin. Marianne Cronin, I was obsessed with her debut, The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot. That was my hand anyone on the street read in 2021. And it keeps selling. It's got rave reviews. It got an Alex Award from ALA. It's being adapted into a feature film. And that was a really big success. And I squealed to the editor when this one was coming because I was so excited. And she told me somehow, this is set up to be even bigger. Marianne's done it again. I knew she would. Same themes, great unlikely duos, and a balance of lighthearted and sadness as the first one. But it's great for book clubs. It revolves around Eddie Winston. He's looking for love, as you might tell from the title. He's 90 years old, and he's lived and loved but never been kissed. He's an incurable romantic. He volunteers at a charity shop, kind of collecting pieces of other people's loves. And he meets Bella, who is a troubled woman who at 24 years old has just lost the love of her life. So now Bella is going to help Eddie finally find love. And it sparks an adventure that will take them to unexpected places, remarkably bright creatures. Eleanor Offit is completely fine. Those funny, sad, sweet combos that really lift our heart. Right in that vein, we're also going to do a simultaneous hardcover edition. Next is Hampton Heights by Dan Coyce. This is really fun. Dan actually just spoke at the Library Reads event at PLA, so you might have heard him there if you attended. But he is a podcaster at Slate. His previous book, Vintage Contemporaries, was a big hit. Washington Post notable. This is very different. That was great. This is a very different read. It's a coming-of-age thriller set in the 80s. Stranger Things meets Stand By Me. I feel like I have to have your attention, right? It's a cold winter's evening in 1987. 6 middle school paper boys go to an unfamiliar Milwaukee neighborhood, Hampton Heights, selling newspaper subscriptions. And their manager, Kevin, promises, if you go, I'll get you Burger King at the end. So that's what's getting them through. And they split up. They don't know each other, roam the neighborhood, come up against monsters who haunt this neighborhood, and they tend to mirror what's going on with the kids in their everyday lives. It's witches and werewolves and a lot more horrifying and outrageous, but ultimately really tender. Discovery of vulnerability and growing up, but also Dan was very adamant to tell everyone the kids are okay at the end, adults are fair game. So it's a super slim read too, and it's fun. It's a wild ride, literally. Next is How Does That Make You Feel? Magda Eklund by Anna Montague. This is a special debut. It's from an editor actually at Harper. It's her debut. We're honored to have her. It's a novel of heartbreak, friendship, discovering oneself. It's our lead read of the season, so we all voted and got behind this book. It's marked as a late in life coming of age story, appealing to Andrew Sean Greer's Les fans and Shelby Van Pelt fans. Magda is a therapist who loves her routine. She recently lost her best friend, Sarah, and she's kind of wading through this mourning and doing okay, sticking to the routines. But Sarah's widower asks her to go through her things and hold on to her urn for a while. She's like, okay, fine, I can do this. I'm the strong one. But in going through the journals, Magda finds that Sarah had put a last directive, a road trip for Magda's 70th birthday. So with her urn in tow, she's going to hit the road, crossing the country and encountering a cast of characters, including her sister, who she's been keeping secrets from. And she faces longings that she locked away years ago about her sexuality and her identity. And it's a really lyrical portrait of mourning. I was highlighting lines. It's brave, and it's a story that tells us never too late to start your journey. And we're getting a lot of love in for this one. Next is This Motherless Land by Nikki May. Her critically acclaimed debut novel, Wahala, won numerous awards, and it's being turned into a major BBC TV series, drama series. And this is a modern day retelling of Jane Austen's Mansfield Park. So Quiet Funke is happy in Nigeria. She's born, she loves it there. She loves her family, but then tragedy strikes and she's sent to England, a place she knows only from her mother's stories. And to her dismay, she finds a much dilapidated estate, tasteless food, gray weather, and her mother's family are really cold and distant. But she has one cousin who she connects with. Liv is free-spirited and wants to break away from the joyless family. And a second tragedy occurs and their friendship is torn apart. So against the shadow of their shared family history, and each woman will struggle to chart her path forward, separated by country, misunderstanding, and ambition. It moves between Somerset and Lagos and over 2 decades. So it's an examination of identity and culture and race. But, if you're a fan of Britt Bennett or Celeste Ng, this is for you. It's great for book clubs. And we have a Charmaine Wilkerson quote that just came in, vibrant coming-of-age story that explores loss, longing, and belonging in the multicultural family. Next is The Keeper of Lost Art by Lori Morelli. You may know Laura from her past historical novels like The Night Portrait or The Last Masterpiece. They bring art history to life. She has a PhD in history from art history from Yale, and she's covered things for TED Ed and National Geographic Traveler, so she knows of what she speaks. It's inspired by real events depicting a little-known story of a Tuscan villa where they protected great works of Florentine art during World War II, thanks to the courage of everyday people, like Kate Quinn, Pangenoff, those fans. This is going to be the next perfect read for them. Full of history, but in the great, novel wrapping. As Allied bombs rain down on Torino in 1942, Stella is sent to live with relatives in a Tuscan villa, and she finds that they're tasked with keeping 300 priceless masterpieces from Florence, including a Botticelli's famous Primavera, in safekeeping. An arrival of German troops are imminent, and she connects with some refugees that are coming in. She's got some secret about her dad at the front. People aren't really liking her and her family, and she's not sure. And then a troop of German soldiers requisitions the villa and puts everyone into forced labor. Will the paintings be taken as spoils or become unintended casualties? She really does a great job of bringing that real art history to the present. It's really fascinating what we could have lost. Next is All This and More by Pung Shepherd. This is a fun one. It's been so great to see Pung flourish over the years. Since her debut, The Book of M, I felt like every book gets bigger and bigger, and this one's set up to be a big breakout. We just had her on Writers to Watch. It was a great conversation. Go check it out. But in this, we have Marsh. She's 45 years old. Her life's in shambles. She's kind of like failed marriage. Teen and daughter doesn't want anything to do with her. She needs a do-over. And what luck, there's a new TV show. It's a reality global sensation. All This and More, a show that uses quantum technology to allow contestants to revisit their past and change their presence. But it maybe is too good to be true. The second season this is like a reboot of the second one because it never aired. So what's going on there? It's about choices and their allure and consequences, and it's a choose your own adventure. So you can read it all the way through, or you can jump around, which I think is super fun. And it all has to do with the story and the underlying mystery. Things keep popping up and you're wondering what's happening. The Midnight Library is a good comp for this. Great for book clubs and a lot to discuss. Next is Toward Eternity. This is our Via imprint. We do a lot of work in translation, and Anton Her is a best-selling translator. So it's kind of a cool crossover. It's a speculative novel exploring AI advancements in technology set in the near future. They have robots that can go in and rapidly replace cancer cells with android robot cells. And so we have a researcher who's teaching AI poetry, and things get strange when he has to have this nanotherapy to replace his cancer. He disappears and comes back, not sure if it's him anymore. And the person who created the nanotherapy learns about his AI. And so he puts it in a human body. So it's a lot of questions about what is human, what happens when we use these advancements. Is it all good? Is it all bad? It's really fascinating and timely. It's written in multiple perspectives through notebook entries. I think a sideways entry point is going to be great for discussion in AI, like How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. It was like that did for technology and connection. I think that's the same. And then last, oh, look, I think I'm going to get through them. Word Hunter by Stella Sands. So this is a cool fiction debut for best-selling true crime author Stella Sands. Very impressive career. She wanted to write a fiction book, and she delivered. I ate it up. We have a tattooed, pierced, messy young heroine named Maggie Moore. Most of her family and friends have left her. She's haunted by a mysterious disappearance of her childhood best friend. She's left on her own. She uses diagramming sentences as an escape, and she is a top student in her forensic linguistics class. She's tapped by the police to use her skills to narrow down a suspect in a stalker turned rapist case. And now she's on their short list for help. So when the mayor's daughter is abducted, she's called. She teams up with a less than enthusiastic Detective Jackson to find the truth. And using her skill for analyzing text and emails for clues, she is maybe will figure it out. I read it maybe 2 sittings. I love this character, and she doesn't take no for an answer, but it's really for book lovers and word lovers because there's these fun, famous quotes from books diagrammed. So yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited. That's my list, and I hope you pick them up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lainey, and a big thank you to all of today's presenters. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Staff training, in-services, local conference, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and Booklist Reader for upcoming staff training programs, so you can help the next generation of library workers become readers advisory and collection development superstars. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website or email info@booklistonline.com for more details. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our partner LibraryReads, as well as our sponsors, Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, and HarperCollins. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.